So, ladies and gentlemen, let's start off the show today with a news story in the United States drone wars, or one aspect of what Jeremy Scahill famously calls the United States dirty wars. So, this last week, ladies and gentlemen, in Yemen, there was yet another U.S. drone strike. They struck what was reportedly thought to be an convoy of Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. It turns out that it wasn't. It turns out that what was struck was a wedding convoy. Reuters quoted a Yemeni security official as saying, quote, "An airstrike missed its target and hit a wedding car convoy. 10 people were killed immediately, and another 5 who were injured died after being admitted to the hospital." End quote. I've read the death toll might be as high as 17, with 30 or so injured in the strike itself, and an additional 30 injured in the strike. Kevin Gostola over at Fire Dog Lake, who, again, Kevin covers drone strikes all over the world all the time. Kevin Gostola writes that another Yemeni official claimed, quote, "None of the killed was a wanted suspect by the Yemeni government." End quote. He also reports that some other Yemeni officials are claiming that perhaps a couple of the dead, a couple of those killed in the drone strike, were members of Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Even if that is true, even if that 1 or 2 or 3 of the 17 or so dead were members of AQAP, the truth is the vast majority of those killed were civilians. They were civilians on their way to a wedding. The Associated Press described the aftermath of the attack that, quote, "left charred bodies and burnt out cars on the road," end quote. And so, look, folks, I don't know if it matters to some of you or not whether 1 or 2 of the 15 or 17 that were murdered were members of Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. I don't know if that justifies that to some of you that might say, oh, whatever, it's okay that we killed a bunch of civilians on the way to the wedding if we got 1 or 2 members of Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. I don't know. But the truth is, at the moment, we still don't know for sure whether a couple might be AQAP members. Maybe the drone strikes were entirely an accident. Maybe the 13 dead civilians were collateral damage, trying to get 1 or 2 or 3 of these men. I'll tell you what I think. I don't actually care. To me, if 15 of the 17 dead are civilians, if they're collateral damage, to get 1 dead, I don't think that's good enough. Killing 13 innocent people to get 1 or 2 supposed bad guys is wrong to me. It is not worth it to me. Killing innocent people on a way to a wedding with a missile from the sky isn't worth it to me. By the way, I'm going to mention this now. I should have mentioned it earlier. In case you aren't aware, Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula is not the same thing as Al Qaeda that attacked the United States on 9/11. Most of you know that, but if you don't, they're actually different groups. But again, I don't know if that makes it worthwhile to you if 1 or 2 were supposedly members of that. President Barack Obama actually said in a speech in May, talking about drone strikes and counterterrorism. Kevin Gostola had this quote from him in May. Obama actually said, "Before any strike is taken, there must be near certainty that no civilians will be killed or injured, the highest standard that we can set." So, and the end quote. That's Obama in May talking about drone strikes. So, look, I don't know if they did that. I don't know if this was a mistake. But for example, just for the benefit of the doubt, let's take the word of the Yemeni official who said that this attack was a mistake. Let's take that on face value. Let's take it on face value that this strike was a mistake. If it is a mistake, it's a mistake that has happened a hell of a lot. A hell of a lot. This isn't the first wedding we've blown up. We've blown up a lot of weddings. We've blown up a lot of funerals. We've blown up a lot of first responders who are coming to help the injured. We have killed a lot of innocent civilians with drones and cruise missiles from the sky. It's a mistake. It's a mistake that we have made and continue to make over and over and over and over again. And so we ask the questions we always ask when these drone strikes happen. We ask, the obvious questions. Do we think any of the victims' families in Yemen care if it was a mistake or not? Do we think it's more or less likely that the families of these victims are going to harbor more hatred towards the U.S. after the murder, the indiscriminate murder of their family and their friends? Of course they are. Of course they are. Again, not only are these strikes immoral, in my opinion, it's also, again, counterproductive if what you care about is supposedly being safe from terrorists. I believe we are creating more terrorists by these strikes. I mean, again, this is something that Americans just don't have to deal with. It's something we don't have to even process. What life is like this. Just imagine. We've all been to weddings. Some of you are married. I just had my wedding a year and a half ago. Just imagine. You're going to the wedding of your friend, or hell, make it a little more personal. You're going to the wedding of your daughter, or your son, or your sister, or your brother. You're going to the wedding. Imagine a row of cars headed to the reception after the wedding, full of your family, full of your friends. Now imagine, randomly, 5 or 6 of those cars just exploding, just being obliterated. Imagine those wedding guests being blown up and burnt and charred beyond recognition from an invisible drone strike from the sky. Just imagine if that were to happen in the United States of America just once. Imagine if that happened in the USA just once. What would our response be? What would our response be as citizens, as human beings? Hell, what would our government's response be? These drone strikes, folks, these dirty wars are a horrible, vicious, immoral road that we continue down day after day after day. And again, if you're someone who supports these type of things, you have to know that the drones themselves are fairly cheap. And we're not the only country that possesses that technology. We'll be right back.